Well, we've got an ultrasonic cleaner, all fresh, temperatures up and ready to go. Oh, I got a box of parts here. What's going on? Got some chains and some used cassettes. Wait a second. What are we doing here? Oh snap! We're gonna do some waxing. Yes, this is waxing service that was purchased, and now we're ready to proceed on waxing these parts, including their cassettes. After
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously I have a garage shop. Take scary how to use one bike at a time. If you want to be kept up to date on latest projects and topics, please like and subscribe.
Welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the Guy, and we are doing a wax service. Yes, I do a service on waxing chains. And this customer brought in some new, preferably new chains. Reason being is that gives you the best experience possible out of the gate. But if you have a good chain that's still used, the process is similar, very much the same. But what we do is we take the new chain that is sent to us, we strip the creosote style grease that's on there. It's not a high performance grease on any of these chains, so therefore at some point you'll need to strip it anyway and use your drip lubes or a wax based lube or a waxing process as what we do here. So with these chains we will clean these, get all that grease off, completely air dry, and then we proceed with the waxing. We use the secret chain wax from Silka, which has pretty much become one of the better standard ones out there. And I have it on a few bikes, a few customer bikes that are riding them and seem to do really well. There's details below in the description on where to get these products yourself if you want to do it, in addition to some results of waxing and the benefits therefore. Reason why you want to wax? Well, there's a whole bunch of data out there that proven that the chains will last longer, that saves cassettes and so forth. Well, that being said, it's a little bit upfront lift to having the waxing service done, but you can buy chains out there now that are pre-waxed and ready to go, so you don't have to do this messy process yourself, or there's services like mine where you send the chains to those individuals and have them waxed. What I do is I level up and I add a cleaning of the cassette. I'm already cleaning the chains, so I might as well take your cassette and clean that too. So all you're responsible of doing is cleaning that derailleur front and rear thoroughly, as well as that crank, which is a little bit easier to do when this stuff is out of the way. Well, let's dive into this and do the process. To briefly go over the process, what I use is this is a fondue pot, and I like to use these containers. A lot of practices are that you use a crock pot and you put the wax directly in there and you kind of recycle that. You can get a crock pot from Walmart from 10 to 20 bucks, and then you can keep it in the crock pot when it solidifies like so, and therefore you can keep reusing it. But for me, what I like to do is once the chain is submerged in the wax and it's heated, I like to add an extra layer of penetration by putting it into an ultrasonic cleaner. What that does is really push that wax into all those little nicks and crannies. So that's what my process is, kind of a little extra layer of steps, but at the end of the day, you can do the wax and have pretty much the same results by using your own standard crock pot. So right now, got this thing warming up, and my tank fits in right there, and I put in a little extra water. So it does boil like you would do melted chocolate, that kind of thing. So this is my melted chocolate process with the secret chain wax. So while that's warming up, I start pre-treating and start cleaning the chains and cassettes, and they gave me a cassette to match each chain, so we're going to go with that. I use Simple Green as individual cassettes and also chains to first strip all that grease off of it. Then with the chains, then I proceed with a rubbing alcohol and run that a couple times through the ultrasonic cleaner as well. That really gets all that gunk out of the chain that's either dirty or pre-packaged, and then air dry it and then proceed to do the waxing process. So there's a lot of upfront work to this to get this to be completely clean. The cleaner the chain, the better the results. So that is highly recommended. Secret Chain from Silka came out with a new squares where you can put it in the actual wax itself, and supposedly strips the pre-packaged new chain wax off there, but we'll see. That just got released, and we'll see if the final results after a few months how that works. I'm not doing that here today. And in addition to waxing somebody else's chains, I also note if you're a bike shop and you wax chains, you might as well grab a few off the shelf and wax them too, so you can do that pre-wax service for your customers that come in the door. Well, without further ado, let's start cleaning these chains and cassettes. So we got ourselves 4 new chains, and they are 2 the same, 2 are different, so 3 are not all alike. I do individualize these in bags so I don't get them all mixed up. These do have quick links on them and also a power link in the SRAM, so I will put those on so it's all one chain. That just makes it easier to wax, in addition to make sure all those bits are done. Also, I found with the power links and also the quick links, if you don't put those in, it's really a bugger to force that wax through to get those quick links, but once they're installed while the waxing process, it's a lot easier to take on and off. So we're going to do that with those. And then we got some cassettes that we need to contend with. They're all free in the bag, so I'm going to zip tie these bad boys all together. Or not together, but individually, so pieces don't get mixed up. And then proceed to get this all cleaned and ready while I'm waiting for my wax to heat up. So each one of these you want to fill up enough that's going to completely coat the chain, like so. And what I do is use the vacuum of dropping them in to get the rest of the air out. As you saw, I did quick links on all and the power links on each one of these, and one continuous circle. That way, once I waxed, and then I can shed the excess by putting it through one of these old school chain cleaners, but it's never been used as a chain cleaner. So it's all just straight wax. So I take this guy, set it in here. The easiest way to do this is one at a time. Make sure you got enough coating. As you see, it vacuums up, and then I can close this. I start with the chains first because it's multiple steps. Also, when the chains are on the bottom portion of the ultrasonic cleaner, that's where the most intense ultrasonic cleaning is going to happen. So I want to make sure these are nice and flush on the bottom of this basket, so they get the most exposure of cleaning solution, like so. Do 5-minute increments. I do it 3 times with the simple green, then I rinse, then I use the rubbing alcohol 3 different times as that. I use glass jars for those, and then we're clean. So while I'm starting the phase of phasing out the cleaning of the chains, I'm going to be definitely going through here, and I don't think I need to zip tie these 2 together, but I'm going to take these individually and go through them and zip tie them. Reason being is I don't want to mix the cassettes, and I also want to pre-treat before I put them in an ultrasonic cleaner. The tank solution is 1 part simple green, 6 to 7 parts water. So it's less intense, but if I really need to get these clean, then I definitely dump them into a straight solution of simple green as well. So I just kind of try to put these back together in somewhere in the order that it was in. Also, I want to try this grime wave, which is this new degreaser from lithium. The idea is it will shed and break down grease and dirt before I ultrasonic clean this, but I want to test it on these dirty cassettes first. Try to get in there. Kind of help the process. The ultrasonic cleaner does a really good job, but anything that's caked up, it's something you want to definitely pre-treat if you can. And this is good on metal and plastic, so we're okay there. So I got through 1 cycle, so I'll re-agitate those chains and put them back in for another 5 minutes. Also, another trick is start using a brush to get into all those crevices. Just a good swipe. A lot of those ultrasonic cleaners, especially at the higher temperature, which I put that at, I think it's at 45 Celsius right now. And this will just aid. You see all that gunkness? Well, the grime away will help break all that down. And if you have other plastic parts like degreasers and so forth, it doesn't eat that up, where you have to be careful with when you're using other solvents, that kind of thing. So the idea is you want to get this as clean as possible, so when you're putting that new wax chain on there, it's not adding contaminants. And as my wax is boiling, that it's softening, and it takes a little bit of time to get to a liquid state. But that's where you want to heat the chain in there. That adds more penetration. And it's starting to kind of show a little bit of wear and shark teeth. This guy must have spent a lot of time in his big ring in the back. Which I don't blame him. It's Colorado. We have some serious things, hills called mountains. Yeah, there you go. You can see how all this nastiness you want to get rid of before you put a nice new clean chain on there. And by scrubbing it really just helps break down that built up old lube, and it just gives the best chance for whoever's going to do the waxed chains better results, and also lengthen the life of your cassette and chain. So there's a secret that I want to add to this, and I'll show you after the end of waxing all of these. And what I do is I pre-treat the cassettes with a secret sauce. But first I need to get these all cleaned first before I apply that secret sauce, because you don't want to put capsulized dirt or gunk in any of these. So yeah, the grime wave seems to be really cutting through all this gunk. You can see it's just getting all over and just killing. The idea is you spray it on and let it sit for a couple minutes, and you can just rinse it with water. So if you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, you don't necessarily have to worry about it. You can still get the same similar clean results by just spraying this and let it sit for a couple minutes and then rinsing it off like so. Yep, dry them away. And if you spray it on there again, kind of a light coat. After I see it kind of melts that old gunk right off those cassettes, and that's what you want to do. So you can take this with a brush and clean your rear derailleur, your front derailleur, and your cassette, or kind of chain rings up front as well, crankset. But I suggest doing it in a separate concentrated area. Make sure you don't spray that around other parts like your brakes and so forth. While this is sitting and kind of breaking down, I'll proceed with the chains. So yeah, you can tell I really like my hot sauces and pasta sauces. So what I'm going to do, just as a giggle, is rinse this off under hot water first and see how much that grime away removes the dirt from these cassettes. So yeah, let's check this out. So let's take a look and see how clean just the grime away in hot water is done. I mean, you really get nicks and crannies. So for yourself, this would probably be great. This is about as good as you can in the field or in your own garage with just cleaning solution in the water. And that was just this and hot water. So that's great. When you look at this here, looks still pretty clean, a little bit of areas. I mean, if I would have scrubbed a little bit more or rinsed a little bit more, probably would have just came off perfectly. So, you know, in this case, this one's a little bit dirtier, but again, I mean, I can rub it off with my finger. So I didn't spend a lot of time putting these in the cleaner there. So, but, you know, for yourself at home, this is actually not a bad process. A little bit of this cleans this up. I think these bottles are, I don't know, 15 bucks or something like that. And they just released it and it works really well. And this is also for your car too. So if you want to clean the engine parts and so forth, it's also okay on plastic. So if you're using a derailleur with those plastic bits on there or crankset, that kind of thing, isolated parts, this is a good thing to clean. And then you rinse with water and it rinses really well. What I do in a professional setting with ultrasonic cleaner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these cassettes, the smaller ones, and swap them in the bag, keep the solution of the simple green, and move that chain into, yeah, you guessed it, the rubbing alcohol. Check this trick out. First, I remove all the chains from their bags, rinse it. I can feel right away how flexible the chains are, how fluid they are, because before they were really stiff with all that kind of creosote grease. So then I rinse this under hot water, then I moved it into the rubbing alcohol to clean, then I reuse the simple green and put the cassettes into the simple green and give them all a good washing. So we have our chains now completely clean. So what we're going to do is take them out of the rubbing alcohol. And as everybody should know, rubbing alcohol, once it dries, it leaves nothing left behind for the most part. So to dry these off, this is where the hook comes in. The hanging hook. This is where I hang these to dry and to dip. So I add a hanging hook like so, and from here it will dry like this, and then I'll dip them in the wax, and then they'll dry in the wax as well as ultrasonic cleaner every little bit. So proceed to do the rest of these and have them hang to dry. So while I'm waiting for these to dry, I'm going to do a nice little treatment. These are dry. I'm waiting for the chains to dry. We're going to do a little ceramic coating from Ceramic Slam from lithium. What this is going to do is protect the chain cassettes and give it a nice little coating for protection. What that does is it penetrates the little metal bits and it'll give it a good little coating, so it'll shed any contaminants or so forth, water droplets. And as you shed it, all of this raw, right, using the ultrasonic cleaner and chemicals. Well, now we're putting a protective layer on these guys. That's the secret sauce. So this will actually help with shedding those mud and water and all that. And when you go rinse it off, that's going to help push that contaminants out of the cassettes when you're using a light rush of water. Same concept for doing the bicycle frame and so forth. So while we have these, I'm going to thread them with a cloth to kind of move it all around the parts, and then we're going to dip the cassettes. Then we're going to dip the chains. So I have a little stir spoke, so to take that out, and I layer these in one direction at a time, and you can see kind of films up right away. Well, the chain is at room temperature, and we want that chain to warm up to the temperature of the wax. And I stack these. Get in there. So I can get 4 of them in there. Then I could put all 4. Yeah, like so. So you want to sit those in there for 5 minutes. Then I close it up with the lid, put it in ultrasonic cleaner for 5 minutes, and then I put it back in here and let it sit another 5 minutes, and then we hang to dry. All right. So now, take this bad boy, cap it, then we move it over. Set this right in, but not completely submerged, just enough to agitate those chains like so. And I have some other chains on its way, which will bring up the water level. So, there we go. Now we've really agitated it with the ultrasonic cleaner. And we go back in here for another 5 minutes of extra something something to make sure that these chains are completely, see how shiny it is? That means it's just really penetrated all those little areas. And definitely want to heat it back up, then dry it, and we're good to go. All right, now we've hit that milestone. So we take the top one and see that sheen of the wax. I have a hook right above it. So just gonna hang. And let that all drip back into the bath. I figure you're gonna do about 4 at a time. It's about my max on these guys. And hanging them right above it captures your excess. You can see all it dripping down in there. That way it kind of sheens it off a little bit. Then we'll need to use a tool to really shed it off once it's dried. Like so. See how it's all that magic. That way you can keep recycling and reusing. As long as you keep your chain super clean, putting in there, you're not contaminating it, right? So rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Look at that. Beautiful. So here we have it, wax chains. Nothing like wax chains, right? So from this point, if you're doing this at home, you can just break these free. I'd wait for 3 or 4 hours for it to completely like harden, basically to the point where it's ready to go. Then you want to use something you want to do like a day before your major ride or what kind of thing before you're actually using it. But the idea is you kind of massage the chain to get all the extra kind of flakes off. So it'll shed quite a bit. And on your first ride, once it's installed, since this is a new chain, you'll have to cut it to the proper length to install it. And once you go for that first ride, it's going to be like 5 or 10 miles for all the remaining shedding happens. So you definitely want to do this part like in your garage or outside. You definitely don't want to do it on your living room floor, that kind of thing. But you can see how it's kind of just flaking. This is still a little soft. You can still feel the heat of the chain. And then my little trick is I use one of these old school chain cleaners. This one's never been used as a chain cleaner, just for de-waxing, so it was brand new. And what I do is I put it through here and I kind of just roll through it, about 50 times, somewhere around there, 30 to 40, 50 times, depending, until I can feel the linkage kind of break free and feel more pliable. That way it's kind of, once it's to the customer, it's ready to go. It shouldn't cause any major hang-ups in the drivetrain, but obviously though, the first 5 miles or so, you want to go kind of light on your drivetrain, just not jam those gears, because it's going to have to shed those excess wax off, that kind of thing. So that's like the extra shedding trick. So I got 4 chains here, going to need to do this process with. I put the ceramic coating on the cassettes after being cleaned for a little added protection. So there you have it. The chain itself, supposedly with all the news stories and other videos and testing out there, will lengthen the life of the chain, number one. Second, save your componentry from wear and tear. And in addition to your jockey pulleys on your derailleur as well as your crankset. So there's a lot of positives to it. It's kind of a pain in the butt to do if you're going to do it yourself, but like me, when you do it, you're going to have to do 2 or 3 hours. Just do a whole bunch at the same time if you're doing it yourself. or look for services like mine that actually will strip it, clean it, and also put it with new wax and also clean the cassettes too, which is my added service. Or you can buy the chains already pre-waxed with the secret silica chain blend. So that's what's really cool about this. And in addition to, here's the extra gold nugget, is you can take their drip version of the super secret sauce, and you can reapply this onto this chain. It's the same stuff, just infused with water, and they say it's like 80% or something like that. So what you can do is you take the chain off, you drip it. I suggest taking it off the drivetrain. Drip it on the counter, kind of let it soak, dry, reapply again, let it dry, reapply a third time, and you're basically at where you were before, being heat waxed. Nothing replaces the heat wax, but this is the close second best. So you can do this on clean chains as it is too with a liquid. So that's another little secret. So what you do is you have 1 or 3 chains, then you swap them out, or you can do the drip between full waxing. So you figure if you have 3 chains and you're cycling through the season, you may only have to do this once a year, maybe twice, depending how much you're riding. And it all depends how much these chains just start squeaking on you. So to refresh the chain, when you're doing road riding, you can basically reapply in your existing wax. If you're mountain biking and you get a lot more contaminants out of it, they're suggested to have 2 baths. One that has like a pre-wax where it has a settlement cage where it'll drip all the settlement down. Then you do the second waxing. And once it's waxed once, you don't have to do the cleaning process again. So this whole cleaning nightmare, supposedly you don't have to do it. If you do it, I mean, you may have to do it in a few years, but I mean, it's one of those things where the chain is going to survive and lengthen its life to a point where you may not have to strip it again. By re-waxing it, refreshes all the wax, and if there is any little contaminants, it'll settle to the bottom of the tank. And that's where, if you're re-waxing, you want to have like a screen that has like a trap basically underneath. So here I go. How many more times? 10, 20, 30? I don't know. Let's review what products that we've needed to use for this process. One, we did the Simple Green. Simple Green is basically used for cleaning the chain. You can use other degreasers and so forth to get the initial grease off. Or Silica Secret has a new square stripper where you can add it to the actual wax, and that actually strips it off of new chains only, not use dirty chains. So if you have a dirty chain, you got to use the total stripping process. And the second stage is using rubbing alcohol. If you can use ultrasonic cleaner, that's great. That really kind of penetrates and clean off. But if not, use jars to get it really clean. You may have to soak it a couple times and massage it and so forth to get it really stripped. So once the chain is completely stripped with all those contaminants, then you can use the melted wax. You wax that, let it sit in there for 5 to 10 minutes, really heats up. My extra bonus is I put it in ultrasonic cleaner for another 5 minutes to agitate it, to get it really into those little bits, and heat it again, and then let it dry. And after that, basically, I kind of do the process of this. You can do it by hand, or do it by hand to a point where you can apply it to the bike, and then you can start going for that first leisure 5-mile, 10-mile ride to get that chain going. Then if you need to reapply here. What I did with the cassettes, I started using, these little back pieces here where the chain rolls on. I used the lithium Grime Wave, brand new product just came out that actually shred all that gunk that was already caked on those cassettes just by spraying on it, agitating with a brush, and rinsing it out with the hot water. Really shed off to the point where you could have just gone by with that, but since I have ultrasonic cleaner, I went ahead and dipped it with Simple Green in the baggies, remainder from the chains, to actually get it completely clean. And then obviously rinsed it. And on top of that, I figured I'd add a little extra something to that coating of the metal, because you strip it from every kind of protectants on there, right? So yeah, most of these are alloy and stainless or what have you, sometimes titanium. You really don't have to worry about these rusting that much. On the less expensive ones they do, but I put a coat of that ceramic slam from lithium. And what that is, the same stuff you put on your cars, also your bike frames, what I have videos on. But what that's going to do is going to add a little protective layer to the cassette. So when you do go in those contaminant areas, rain, mud, that kind of thing, when you get back home, use a light water, rinse, kind of spray, and that'll just help shed all that gunk off your parts as well as your chain too. So it kind of keeps everything as clean as possible and easy after those rides. Even if it does cake up on there for a little bit, I found with the testing on the frames, just a little mist on dried up mud on the bike frame paint, it just comes right off with the ceramics coating. So here we go. How many more times do I need to go? Well, anyway, thank you for hanging out with me. If you have any other comments, suggestions of what you do with your waxing process, or other tip and tricks that you've heard out there, that's great, awesome. Add that. I'll put links below in the comments or in the description section. And hey, if it's beautiful in your neck of the woods, go for a ride. Get this bike going. Oh man, I gotta get going. I gotta get going. I'm behind. Until next time from the garage, have a wonderful day.